Hey, Andy.
Hello, Marshall.
Sorry, I hope you weren't waiting long.
Actually, I wasn't.
Okay.
I was reviewing the urban forest management plan to make sure that we were on the right track with writing the municipal plan.
Oh, you're reading Garvey's?
Yes.
Yeah, I went back and looked through it all again a couple times too and picked up a few of his little recommendations.
Well, I just wanted to make sure that we weren't out of line in writing another plan, but this addresses all the deficiencies that Garvey delineates, outlines. So
Yeah.
I think we're doing the right thing here.
Okay. Yeah, see if Shannon pops into our meeting today. Told him he's welcome to you. How have you been? You been working much or?
No, not particularly. I've been worked a little bit with Derek Stringer on the Woodlot project. I know you had a little skin in that game.
Yeah, how'd that go?
Well, we marked the trees that are hazards, and we're working towards the community, the school, whatever stakeholders there are. I think they need to figure out their desired outcome, and then we can do more with it. It's going to be expensive.
All right, we got someone called Pat here. Hi there.
Hello.
All right, got Tom Shans coming in here. Hey, Tom.
Hello, Tom.
I already closed that.
How's it going?
Hey.
Yeah, good to see you. Welcome. Hi, Pat.
Is my audio working?
Yes.
Yeah, yours is.
Okay, great.
Hello, Lisa.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Marshall. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Yeah, Pat, I'm not sure we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm just an interested person today.
Okay, cool.
Are you Pat, the school teacher from the bike club?
Yeah, a retired school teacher.
That's right. Yeah.
Hi, Andy.
We've met. How do you do? It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
Well, I didn't hear from Mel or anybody else about not being able to make it. And we have quite a bit to get through today, so maybe we can just get started. and others can pop in. How does that sound?
That sounds
Yeah.
good. It looks like we have a quorum.
Yeah, we got 4 of us, so
Okay. And I still haven't heard from, I couldn't find Debbie Perryman's phone number. And I was trying to call her to see if she wants to be in the, on the committee. And also, I talked to Jody and she said she is still interested in being on the committee. However, as we see, she has not so far attended meetings in a long time, but she said she's still interested. So I'm not sure where that puts us. I know I need to look at the bylaws to find out, because I think that we have in the bylaws that if you've missed a number of meetings, that affects whether or not you're on the committee.
yeah, I got that kind of at the end of the agenda, and I got some things I can add to that. So,
Okay.
well, cool. Do we have any written minutes to approve, or we just been kind of rolling with the audio?
No, can you tell me, I can do written minutes. I know I haven't done them recently, but I can start doing written minutes with at least the bare bones written minutes with approvals with any votes that we take.
Yeah, I think that would be good to have a
Okay,
little more of a record than just the audio, and maybe just kind of adding on to the skeleton of the agenda with at least kind of the votes
okay.
and the attendance and stuff. So thank you. That would be awesome. Yeah, so for just the audio minutes here in attendance, we have Andy, Marshall, Tom, Lisa, and we have Pat as a guest. So
Pat,
thanks,
what's your
everybody,
last
for
name?
making it. What's
I'm
that?
Toombs, THUMS.
Thank you.
Well, cool. So we don't have any old business per se. Our first item of new business here is this Arbor Day grant application. And I don't know if people had a chance to look at that, but basically I've been kind of monitoring the DNRC grants, and this one they announced since our last meeting, and it's kind of a tight timeline for approval. But I got in touch with Faith Kinnick, and the commission made the Arbor Day proclamation at their last meeting on Tuesday. That's kind of one of the requirements for the grant. So we're all good with that. And then I had, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar in how DNRC is doing this all online now, but I got online and kind of copied the text of the application and then sketched in some responses to kind of the few fields that we have to really fill anything out. So the main thing here, I don't know if I can share the screen. Can you guys see this?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. So basically I've just done a short description, and I know, yeah, maybe you can tell me if this is much different than what you did last year to get the grant, because I wasn't around for actually doing the application. But basically I've just got a short paragraph here saying that our Arbor Day celebration will be centered around planting 2 to 3 trees in a city park. We'll invite the public to attend. The tree board will read the city's Arbor Day proclamation. I mean, it sounds like this is kind of a shoe-in grant, right? If you just say you're going to plant a couple trees in the park and make it public and do some kind of outreach. So I guess, yeah, I don't know if people have anything they want to add, or I guess we could talk later on once we know if we get the grant about where to actually plant the trees. But
I think it's helpful to have where to plant the trees, but
oh, okay.
then sometimes we've changed it. I think last year we wrote one location in the application and then changed it where we actually planted the trees. So I don't think it's necessary.
Okay.
But if you want, we can talk about where we want to plant them, if we want to make that decision.
Yeah, sure. I don't have any ideas off the top of my head. I mean, it seems like it'd be nice to give attention to one of the parks that we maybe haven't in a while, something other than Sacagawea or
We've done G Street and Katie Bunnell lately also. The issue is, it's kind of nice to have them grouped where we already have some sort of method to water them.
yeah,
Yes. And last year we were at our new city park, right? The new annexed park. I forgot the name of it.
yeah, Green Acres.
In
Green
Acres.
Acres. That was a good idea. I like where we put trees so far over at Sacagawea by the is it the Pompey's Pillar? Is that what the playground is called? I think the trees we have there are really nice and we could add to that location.
We do have older trees there that are going to need to be replaced. That's not a bad thought.
Yeah, so more of like an interplanting thing.
Mhm. Right, those trees are looking good.
Oh, here's Laurel.
Oh, good.
Right. Welcome, Laurel.
He's good.
Hi, Laurel.
Hi. All right, well, maybe I'll mention, yeah, I could add a sentence or two about like, maybe if we just kept it general about like some kind of interplanting and possibly Sacagawea Park.
Okay, yeah, we could do that. Just put additional planting where we recently planted trees and where water is already available. Maybe just
Oh,
add
yeah.
that in there.
Yeah, they like
And
to
then-
know that the trees are going to be watered.
Yes,
You could put a little verbiage in there, Marshall, about it being some kind of succession plan for the trees, the heritage trees in the park or something like that too.
Yeah.
Often a
Okay.
moneymaker.
that's good. That's good.
Okay.
Then we can put it at Sacagawea, but we can still, if we come up with another location, that'll still fit.
All right. Yeah, so that's about it for the stuff we fill out. There's this question about whether volunteers will be involved in the planning and implementation. So I just said, in a volunteer capacity, members of the tree board may assist the city with the tree planting as needed, and public attendees could help to plant the trees as well. I
That's
don't know
good.
if we had anything in past years
Mhm.
to add to that.
Sorry to be late. And maybe I missed this, but I think also there's a role for people that have ash trees that know they're going to get sick and die, presumably, that we could start planting in between. And that would also be a good project if you have ash trees and you're looking forward to replacing them. Now's the time.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're just talking about the Arbor Day grant, which is like 2 or maybe 3 trees. So it's, I mean, we could do them in a boulevard, but it seems like kind of our bread and butter to just plop a few trees in a park somewhere. So,
Do we need a motion, Marshall?
yeah, let's do a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve creating or applying for the Tree City grant for $750 with the few additions that we made to the rough draft that Marshall already put forward. Thanks, Marshall.
I'll second.
All right, do our Zoom style roll call here. This is Marshall voting yes.
Lisa voting yes.
Yeah, Tom voting yes.
Andy voting yes.
Laurel, yes.
All right. Well, cool. So we'll, yeah, I'll make those couple changes and send that to Shannon and say that we are recommending that the city apply for that one. Well, cool. So next on our agenda is discussing planting sites for the active transportation plan. So this was Andy's thing?
I felt that we needed, I guess, to use the term skin in the game in that active transportation plan. There's going to be a variety of hiker biker paths proposed. And there's obviously some new developments in town that have trails already that do not have trees along them. And we discussed it in the bike club, and it's been proposed for the active transportation plan, just to note that any existing city trails or proposed trails be treated like parks and boulevards, in that they would be proposed sites for new tree plantings. And the watering is, of course, the issue.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's great. And just to fill in there, so I've just talked kind of on a personal basis with like Sarah Stans and others, just throwing around ideas for doing plantings along the trails. And I was kind of interested in doing something this spring of like potentially planting like some smaller, like almost like seedlings of native species that would require maybe less water. So that, I mean, that's one just small possibility of a direction this could go. But in general, I think that there's interest on the Parks and Trails Committee in getting some trees along the trails. And so I think, yeah, any way we can kind of help them advance that with this plan is great. So does anybody have a sense of how we would do that, Andy? Isn't this plan being done by a consultant?
The consultant is due to be picked at the end of this month.
Okay.
And it is being done by a consultant, I guess, to back up a little. I'm not sure exactly how to move forward, whether we would do it as public comment or if we would have enhanced standing as another city board. When I look at a lot of the initiatives, be it the growth policy or the active transportation plan, I think it behooves us as a tree board to integrate ourselves into the process and to always have a seat at the table. So I know it's more of an activist stance than we've had in the past, but I think Livingston's moving in a direction and we need to move with it. And so I think this is part of that mindset.
Yeah, so Andy, did you have an idea in mind for how to move forward from this meeting? Do we want to kind of agree to send a note to the Parks and Trails Committee saying, you know, we're interested in contributing however we can to the active transportation plan, just, you know, however we can help out with addressing your, well, yeah, maybe we don't even need to go there, just say however we can help out.
I'm kind of lost in the parliamentary niceties of the interface between two committees, whether it's we have to vote on a resolution or we write a note. I just think that we need to have some sort of communication with them saying that we're interested in being helpful to the process.
I think that holds true for zoning as well. I know when they were working on their big box, there was some landscaping requirements in there as well. So
I think it's You're right, Laurel. I think from my discussions, it's a 15% set aside for new developments for parks and trails. So definitely.
So both those committees we need to be in the loop, and whether that's official or unofficial, I guess, is a question for, well, maybe it's a question for Matt, who's the head of the planning guy at the city. He seems to know the rules pretty well.
I think that's an excellent thought. Maybe we should just consult him on how we should go about this so that it doesn't look amateurish and we have real standing.
Okay.
Can somebody refresh my memory? What is the active transportation plan? Is it something that's just being implemented now? It's just getting off the ground, or?
My understanding, Lisa, is that a bunch of COVID money fell out of the sky, and Parks and Trails was approached and said, can you use this money? And there again, gosh, I hate to say anything because it's going to be in the record, because I could be all wrong, but I think that this kind of came out of the blue and blindsided everybody, that we had this money, it had to be spent by June. There's a need for an active transportation plan. I think it's called the Trails and Active Transportation Plan. And therefore, the movement to move ahead with it got started. And that's kind of the paraphrased version of the way I understand it. It's a little convoluted.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
And it's being implemented by the Trails Committee, or they're,
I don't know if the Trails is the actual lead or it's a public works initiative and the Trails is involved. I
Okay.
don't know. I've heard about it through Trails Committee members.
okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I think there's been discussion about planting along the trails, and I think it just makes sense however we can to try and include that in the plan, and probably as early as possible to try and just get trees included in like the scope of it, so they're not just talking about pavement and gravel.
Mhm. Good.
Well, cool. I'm just thinking off the top of my head here, but I could start by just sending a note to Matthew and maybe Jean as well, just both of them, saying, came up at our meeting that we're interested in contributing however we can as a board, and we'd like to see, we're interested in seeing trees considered as a part of the active transportation plan.
I think that's great. And they would tell us what kind of official correspondence may or may not be required.
Sure.
Mhm.
I think there's also, and I don't see this come up much, but heavily forested, like the new little at the bridge. I don't know. I'd have to look at the literature, but I suspect there are some safety things that we need to consider for like line of sight. Like that's just to make sure that when we plant, we're planting in such a way that people feel safe and that they're not hidden, that they're not in an unusual spot where they would feel a little bit vulnerable. Because I think we don't have a problem with overforestation, but that particular little spot that goes down like that is actually quite odd. And like for hospital commuting, it's back and forth, it's in the dark, you're out of sight. And we have to just keep in mind some things like that as we make our recommendations. Having ridden back and forth for many years to that.
I think that's a valid point that, I've done some survey in Sackett Park, just anecdotally with the bike club. And, once you get behind that railroad bridge and down in there on city, county land, it's definitely, security is a concern. There's, homeless people have camped in there. I've found 3 different homeless camps. We have to be very cognizant of that.
I don't know that homeless people are a risk, but I think it just speaks to exactly that you just need to keep that in mind, because I'm not sure that that's on anybody's radar.
Yeah.
I guess I try not to sound derogatory to homeless people, but illegal activity is illegal activity. And if it's happening in the park, in the trees, we need to be cognizant of it and do our best to avoid a problem.
Well, cool. I guess if people feel like that's a good way to move forward, I'll send that note to Matthew and Jean, and we can take it from there.
Do we need a motion and a vote for the record?
Sure. Let's
I
do
make
it.
a motion that we initiate communication with the Parks and Trails Committee regarding the involvement in the active transportation plan.
And the zoning committee as well.
Zoning, okay. I'll second that. And do our little roll call here. This is Marshall voting yes.
Yeah.
Lisa voting yes.
Yeah, Tom voting yes.
Andy voting yes.
Laurel, yes.
All right. Well, cool. So our third item here, discussing this first draft of the tree management plan. So yeah, a lot happened with this. I guess quick story, and Andy can help fill in. But I mean, I think at our last meeting, I was kind of the skeptic, saying that I didn't think we could do this. And then at our special meeting shortly after that, just some kind of discussion about, well, maybe Andy's going to run with putting together kind of a first draft. So Andy did that, and then I saw he sent it to me, and I think I just got a sense of how that we could do this, and that it would really tie together a lot of what we've been kind of talking about in recent months. And I think Andy has a good perspective on, you know, how this is important right now with Eric retiring in the fall, and the, you know, talk about proposing tree districts. So basically I kind of ran with that and just filled it in. We were using a couple other management plans as a guide. And so really, I think we have a pretty solid first draft now of what we're calling just a municipal tree management plan. And so, yeah, I think that I'm just really interested in the group's feedback. I think at this early stage, you know, this is kind of where we define like what we want, kind of the broad outlines of what we want in there and what not. And I guess my kind of style as a writer is to just like try and get stuff on paper to debate about it, instead of like debating and then trying to put it on paper. Like it's easier to edit than to, you know, come up with stuff from scratch. So
Could I give a little background, Marshall?
yeah.
Back in about 2010, the city was proactive with the emerald ash issue and some other tree management issues, and contracted to a well-noted state arborist, not a state employee, but a Montana arborist named Mike Garvey. And he did a rather comprehensive tree inventory for the trees owned by the city of Livingston. That inventory is the basis for a lot of the really good tree work Eric has done. As a follow-up to that, the city was happy with that work and had Mike write an urban forestry plan. And if you can follow this, this is what gets a little confusing. The urban forestry plan kind of is an overview of the current situation status of all trees in Livingston, kind of the environment, the whole broad scope. And then it lists a variety of things that need to be done to manage trees properly. So one of the recommendations was that the city needs to write a municipal tree management plan, and that's for that subset of the urban forest that is owned by the city. So the urban forest is private and publicly owned trees. The municipal tree management plan is the real nuts and bolts of how the city will manage this, the trees owned by the city. And a couple things had to come together to do this. One is that we needed to get the ordinance issue taken care of, and that got taken care of in December. We have a tree ordinance. It's probably going to generate a lot of controversy because it very boldly states that all tree work will be paid for by, boulevard tree work will be paid for by the owner that fronts that boulevard. And I think that as Emerald Ash Borer comes in, we're going to have to soften that blow for a lot of people. So that's on the table. We also have Eric Schneider, our city arborist, announcement that his intention to retire within several months. It's a little loose at this point, but he has taken the inventory and the tenants of the urban forestry plan and done an excellent job. So all this stuff being said, it seemed like the time was right to move forward with the municipal tree management plan. How are we going to manage the publicly owned trees? So I decided that I would scratch out a draft. I took ideas from a number of different plans, and I really focused heavily on Mike's work with the urban forestry plan. Currently, the city doesn't go with any standards as far as how tree work will be done. There's nothing written that says we'll go with the American National Standards Institute stuff. The duties of the arborist are not written down. Just a variety of nuts and bolts things. How we will protect trees during construction. That's been a real problem with sidewalks in the city and that kind of thing. So I did take it upon myself to look at Bozeman's plans. They have a tree management plan that's kind of a hybrid. I actually looked at Concord, Massachusetts, because Massachusetts, because of their ability to fund with their high population and high value forest, they're kind of the gold standard on how to do this stuff. Anyway, Marshall and I worked together and we have a draft that's well down the road, but it doesn't have enough input of enough stakeholders, and it's a long ways towards turning my lump of coal into a diamond with Marshall's fine touch. But we need to have Shannon and Eric look at it, and we need to really articulate to the city why this is needed. And it's actually in our charter as a tree board that we'll write a tree management plan. It's also in Mike's urban forestry plan, urban forest management plan, that we would move forward and write a municipal tree management plan. So we've kind of have a legal mandate that we have to do this. Whether or not the city accepts it, that's not our business. Our charge as a tree board is to provide this document and to provide it as professionally as we can. And we've tried to write some fairness issues into it, and we've tried to write some economies into it, knowing that not everybody in Livingston can afford to have tree work, and knowing that the Emerald Ash Borer could wipe out 1,400 trees within maybe a 3 to 5 year period somewhere in the foreseeable future. So that's kind of the long version of why we did this. We didn't want to cut anybody out. The holidays came along. We're in COVID lockdown. The ordinance got passed. So I wrote it and handed it to Marshall, and he made it into something that's more presentable, because I kind of am a crayon on cardboard writer. And so it's there for you guys to take a look at, to pick apart. Please ask a lot of questions, and please be ruthless, because the community will be. I guess that pretty much is what I have to say about it.
Yeah, do people have thoughts on this?
I have a question. In your rough draft, are you addressing at all the creating a tree district?
Yes, we mention it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think,
Go ahead, Marshall.
well, just in the overall structure, the way I see this functioning, I mean, so it's kind of distilling a lot of the information from Garvey's inventory and plan. But like Andy said, trying to make it into more of an actionable plan. I mean, Garvey's thing is like really open-ended suggestions. It's kind of useless as a policy for the city. And, but then kind of ending, so I guess the point is to kind of outline like a base level of tree maintenance that Eric has done, you know, just because he's Eric, I think, and, you know, get that on paper, but then, you know, just laying out the constraints and the funding options to the commission.
Okay.
So one of those is like, you know, status quo, $13,000 a year out of the general fund gets you what? And then, okay, so then there's 3 districts, and then there's a big slot in there for like, you know, whether there are intermediate options. I really have no idea what Shannon or the, you know, Mike Hardos have discussed with the commission at this point, so.
There's a couple other things here. The inventory should be an appendix or a subset of the city's tree management plan. It only makes sense that you have that plan, and then a part of it is to keep track of your trees and your tree work. And I don't know that the annual tree work done in the last 10 years since the plan was adopted has been used to update that plan. And I don't think it has. And so that's a real problem. Doesn't mean we need another $5,000 or $10,000 inventory. That's one reason we didn't want to spend $25,000 to write a tree management plan. So we've got this issue that the urban forestry plan is like the 30,000 foot view. The tree management plan is a little bit off to the side of that. It's not a subset of it tied to it, but it's there. And then the inventory should be part of that. So the tree management plan with the inventory are your working documents. And a couple other things are going on here. This $13,000 has been able to be stretched pretty far because of Eric's commitment and the fact that the city has a relationship with Tom Karnatz, who does really pretty good work, even though he's not certified. And he gives the city a heck of a rate. If Eric retires and Tom Karnatz is in his 50s and his company goes away, believe me, he's probably 25% of what anybody else is going to charge. So I really don't want tree work to fall off the city's radar with Eric's retirement, because there's all sorts of pressing needs for funding. And I think that we need a plan, and we are mandated to write this. And I think we need to have a plan so that trees stay there. They're easy to forget about with sewer lines and snow plowing and cops and what have you. So that's kind of getting down into the weeds a little, but that's the deal.
Yeah, did anybody look at the draft and have kind of some feedback, either general or specific?
I looked at it. It's absolutely excellent. I mean, the inventory, which is a lot of that early pages, is so helpful just to give context and also to show the trajectory of where we're headed and why this is a crucial issue right now. So I think a little piece of that can go into the intro, because nobody's going to read 20 pages. I mean, we are, but in general, we need some snappy little few paragraphs to present with all of these data as backup. I think that I would say we would have this as tight as possible before we take it to the city, because their perspective is to save money and put as much of this as possible onto the homeowner. And I don't see that as very realistic. So we want to be really pretty well packaged before we go to them for their perspective.
Yeah,
I think that having Marshall write an abstract would be a good thing. I don't disagree with that at all, Laurel. The one thing about the cost is, one way or the other, the taxpayers, the residents are going to pay for this. Renters are going to pay for it through rent. The ordinance is pretty much you homeowner have this burden. I think I would love to try and move a tree district forward, but we can't move a tree district forward without a tree management plan. That's why I'm big on this thing. And then I'd like to sell the tree district as really it's not a tax as much as it's an insurance policy. You pay a few bucks a year, and then the city has an arborist, a couple of workers, and a chip truck and a chipper and a bucket, and away they go. And then they set the priorities and they do the work, and it's paid for all out of the tree district. Eric has the cost breakdown. It's very doable here for really a very nominal cost per resident. But without the tree management plan, it's a non-starter.
Right, and so that's a really good way to frame it, at least in our minds as it's written, is that is the purpose of the plan, is so that we can move forward, Because otherwise what we've accomplished with this ordinance is that rich people get trees and nobody else does.
Well, what we've accomplished is that rich people get tree service and poor people have their trees fall on their house. You know, it's an income equality thing. There's no doubt about that. But, you know, we just lost as far as the whole notion of the common good went to the side in the state in this last election. And we went to the individual rights spectrum. The tree ordinance is exactly what people wanted in this election. It's all about individual rights. The tree district is about the common good. So we do have a hard sell. But I think it's worth it. I think the tree management plan is worth it. I think the ordinance was a step in the right direction. And I think that everything's lining up for us to be successful as far as the tree management plan goes. The tree district is going to be a knife fight in a phone booth. It's not going to be pretty, but I think we can win that too.
So Trails and Parks got 50,000 from COVID.
That's the word.
That's what they just told me. Yeah.
Yeah. We got the 15,000 for the ash tree replacement grant, but that's a lot less than 50,000.
Was that was the 15,000 part of the 50,000?
No.
No, the 15,000 was a separate item. It's all CARES Act funding.
Okay.
So
Yeah, they got to hire a consultant. To me, you know, that's like hiring somebody to tell you what time it is and then handing them your watch, because you're going to do all the work anyway so that they can give you a good product. We're seeing that with the growth policy. I looked at that cut and paste thing and I just about had a conniption and started writing public comments. It's a company from Ohio that's just doing a cut and paste generic nothing. And so here we are, community members doing all the work, and that's going to happen on this active trails thing. That's why I'm passionate about getting in there and helping with it, because it's going to be, hopefully we get a local contractor. So I need to be a little less cynical on that one. And I know Sarah's worked really hard to get local people to bid it. So.
Well, and these very lengthy proposals and reports are also sort of, I mean, they just shut down democracy right on the spot because it's just too much for anybody to really take in.
yeah.
That's another part of this tree management plan. I'm referencing the American National Standard Institute's A133 and their A300 tree work standards, because OSHA's website is incomprehensible. And if you're following the ANSI standards, you are definitely following OSHA laws. But nobody's ever going to be able to look up what the right thing to do is on the OSHA website.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got that referenced in there to try and help the city figure out this is what has to be done and this is how we do it to stay out of trouble.
So it sounds like we need an abstract. Who else would be stakeholders before this goes to the city? So Trails and Parks would be again, zoning might be again. How about other outside groups? I mean, the health department certainly should be. It's city county, because there are tremendous health benefits that we can mostly document for an urban forest in all neighborhoods, particularly those lower income or more distant or isolated. Who else would be stakeholders that we would want to talk to?
Well, I think Eric with the city needs to be contacted right away due to the fact that he's going to retire. And I do not want the city to feel ambushed by us or that we're doing a workaround. So I could see a simultaneous release, but the city being an equal stakeholder.
Yeah. So basically where we're at right now, we've got this draft. We're pretty much the only people who've seen it at this point. I sent it to Eric like a week ago, just to kind of get a first take from him. And he said he was going to look at it and get back to us, but I haven't heard. And then Shannon picked up on this just from seeing it on the agenda. I'm not sure how he feels about it at this point, but I think, yeah, I mean, we need to be getting other people involved in this. Um, so I don't know, as far as a way forward, I guess it partly depends on how much more in-depth input other people on the committee want. You know, if we had another couple weeks, like, do we even want to have a meeting dedicated to this where we get into some of the nuts and bolts of it after people have a chance to kind of soak it in a little more? Or do we want to plan to just address this at our next meeting and hope that we have some feedback from Eric and others? What do you think?
I'd be willing to have a special meeting on it. If a special meeting on it, if Eric gets a chance to have input at the same time. Otherwise, it's probably more efficient to wait till the next meeting. But if Eric could see it before then, I'd be happy to have a special meeting so we could just address just the plan.
Yeah. I think it would be good to try and set a goal of getting this done pretty soon, like not take a year on it like the ordinance. I mean, I think it's kind of a linchpin in everything we're trying to do. You know, we're trying to update the inventory, we're trying to get funding for stuff, we're trying to get a proposal for tree districts. We're trying to deal with Eric retiring.
I know the city planner is going to have to be involved at some point, and he's going to have 1,000 questions, but that's the person who can help us figure out how to approach stakeholders and to bring stakeholders in. So it's kind of a chicken or the egg thing. I'm not really a process guy. I'm not good at this stuff. But somehow that person has to be involved. On the other hand, I'd love to have a first reading as soon as we can, because that's when the public really gets to weigh in. And then, as far as I understand the city commission's process, and the city commission is going to have a lot of questions as why are we doing this? What's the deal? But it's pure benefit to everybody in city government to have this done. There is no downside for them. And I think we just need our opportunity to articulate that. The city attorney needs to weigh in.
Yeah, I'm a little leery of really opening it up to a big public audience before we go to the commission with this. It just seems like at that point it starts to kind of really take on an uncontrollable energy potentially. If that makes sense. I mean, we want the commission to know that we're working on this and why, kind of before we start to really take it to a big public forum, right?
Well, we could do a couple things here. We definitely need to know what Eric is thinking, what his thoughts are.
Yeah.
I'm not averse to running it by the city attorney. She and I are pretty good friends, and you know, she's very upfront. And I think legally we have every right to move this forward. I don't see anybody in city government stepping on our neck. It's mandated that we do it. So I don't know. What do you think, Marshall? You've got the connections as well. You can talk to Matthew and see what he thinks, or we could. Mel is our voice on the city commission. Maybe it's time to consult Mel.
Yeah, I was really hoping he'd be here pretty much specifically for this question. Yeah, I like the idea of checking in with Mel.
I think that's the first step. It'd be disrespectful actually not to.
Yeah. I mean, Shannon knows we're working on this. He's got the same draft we do. So I think as far as our next move, yeah, getting Mel's advice.
So I guess, you know, this discussion's all good, but maybe just for the notes, we need to know what Mel and Eric are thinking. And then we can maybe call a special meeting like Lisa said and figure out the next step and invite Matthew to help us, because we need a process person.
Yeah.
I think process is great, but again, I think we need to be clear about our goals before we let this get, because there may be competing goals here. I'm not saying that our goals are the best, but I think we're in the best position to understand the topic, the issue, the barriers, at least some of them. So we just need to be pretty clear before we take it out and sort of lose sort of our path, which, to let people think that now we're putting this out for other people to adapt. I mean, again, we can write whatever we want. They can do with it what they will. But I would like us to be pretty clear about our intent before getting too far afield.
Yeah. Well, I think the introduction
Yeah.
of how it's written now is, maybe we could adapt that into more of an abstract, but I really tried to lay it out like without any real like angle on what we're trying to do. Basically, like, Garvey did an inventory, he did a plan that recommended kind of a more detailed plan in the future. The kind of time horizon for that has come up. It's like the first thing in our tree ordinance under the duties of the tree board that we're supposed to do this. We have an aging forest of primarily ash trees that are susceptible to ash borer. I mean, maybe there are a couple other issues we could note there to kind of make it a little more to the point. But
I mean, to me, our intent is that we are the tree board and our job is to build and protect an urban forest for the people of Livingston.
Municipal forest, not urban forest.
Municipal forest, thank you.
Yeah.
Because they're owned by the city, okay. But I mean, that's right up front. The rest of this, then it's like, well, how are you gonna do that and who's gonna pay for it are the two next obvious questions. And so that's sort of how I would want to be clear, at least in our own minds. However that gets communicated is another thing maybe, but we need to be clear about that. If that's in fact what we're saying.
I think that's the
Yeah.
introduction right there.
Okay, so it sounds like what we're saying is that yeah, we want to be on the same page with the goals, which would maybe be kind of a point of discussion once kind of alongside discussing other details in the plan, whether that's at a special meeting or at our next meeting. But in the meantime, we want to reach out to Mel to get his idea for the next step in the process.
Tom, as a new member, do you have any thoughts? You're kind of coming in at this from the side.
I'm still kind of taking it all in. I've had a whole bunch of notes here that I put together before the meeting of, different ideas. All of it takes money and we don't have money. So I'm looking at my ideas going, that's never going to happen. And that's never going to happen. I'm looking at everything on my phone. I haven't even moved it over to a computer yet. So I thought the working draft was the emerald ash borer because it looked the same when it popped up on my screen. So I have not reviewed that yet. There's an emerald. I had Marshall send me everything. And so I've got 4 or 5 emails with all this stuff. And I was just looking through them and you guys were talking about the municipal tree management plan. And I was like, I didn't get that. And then, well, yes, it did. But I thought it was the ash borer because it sort of looked the same on the little screen that came up. So right now I would propose, I would not mind a special meeting. And then I also had one of my notes is I thought, some boards are meeting in person again, are they not or not? Is the commission still Zoom? Is everybody Zooming still?
Commission still is.
Hmm?
The commission is, they met on
Yeah.
Tuesday over Zoom.
So we're going to continue this for, anyway, I just thought it'd be nice to get together at some point, and we will. Right this moment, no. I need to, and I can't read on my phone. I'm gonna have to get all these printed out. I've got the Garvey plans, the Garvey reports. And so I'm trying to keep up, or trying to get up to speed. I'm still, you guys are mentioning names here. Tom Karnitz, I don't know that. Shannon, I don't know who Shannon is. So I need to get up to speed on a couple things.
Yeah, Shannon's an important one. He's our public works director.
Okay,
So all the tree management falls under him, basically. And then Eric, I think, may have been on one of the meetings with you. But,
he was.
Eric Schneider is the parks foreman,
Mhm.
who is kind of the lead of the tree specific stuff in the city.
Does he want to join the tree board when he retires?
That's an excellent question.
Good idea.
Doesn't live in the city though.
He
No,
doesn't?
Yeah, I don't think he's
Oh, that's right.
eligible.
I thought I read within 2 miles of the city or something.
Yeah, he lives way out Swingley.
Oh, well.
All right. Well, I'd like to save a few minutes here at the end to deal with our last thing on the agenda. Just kind of nuts and bolts.
What did we decide? Did we decide to continue to address it till the next meeting? Make sure we get Eric and Mel, make sure we get their input and save it for the next meeting.
Yeah, maybe play it by ear as far as a
Go
special
on.
meeting. And
Okay.
I mean, should I just send an email just to Mel and say, this is the main thing on our plate at this point. We'd really like some input from you about the best way to proceed,
Okay,
including whether we should call a meeting before our next regular meeting just to talk, focus on this.
okay. Okay, good. Thank you.
All right, yeah, and then I really am interested in everybody's input on this. I feel like, I didn't want it to be kind of an ambush. So I think it'd be great if people can really kind of tear it apart and let us know what you think at the next meeting. Well, cool. Unless anybody has any other comments on that. So as far as the membership stuff, so as we voted on at the last meeting, I sent Faith an email saying, we wanted to advise the city that we have 2 members who have not been coming to meetings. And, it's a concern for us because we have another applicant who wants to be on the board. So, we were hoping that the city manager's office would kind of handle that for us, but Faith just put it back in our court. So she said, basically that if we want to do that, we have to vote and then notify the members. So I have an email I can show you from her, but that was the gist of it. And so then I emailed or called Jody and Debbie. So Debbie's phone, I got Debbie's phone number from the city, but her number is blocked. So I emailed her and just said, hey, can you give me a call or whatever? Just let me know if these meetings are working for you and if you're still interested in being on the board. So didn't hear from her. And then I guess Jody's email is always bouncing. And Jody's email is bouncing. So I left a voice message for her and I didn't hear back from her. So yeah, I guess we just have to decide as a board whether to vote to remove one or both of them if we want to make a seat for, it's Maureen, right?
Maureen. Yeah.
So we can, because Maureen's application was during that open recruitment, we can approve her anytime if there's an open seat. So I don't know what others think. I mean, it kind of bothers me that there's somebody who wants to be on the board and that they can't be because there are 2 people who never come.
How long ago was it that you tried to contact those guys? How long that you emailed Debbie? Was it a week ago?
Yeah, it was a
ago.
week or two ago, week and a half.
When's the last time she was at a meeting?
Last time we were live, last spring.
Yeah, I think February or January.
And then we had meetings scheduled all summer and neither one of them came to the outdoor meetings either. And we had other people attend, but the two of them, neither of them attended those meetings at the park.
So, I mean, I think it's not terrible, you know, we appreciate your contributions. It has been a year since we've seen you at a meeting. We have tried to contact you. We're going to assume that, you know, you're not no longer interested, but, you know, unable to participate. And thank you very much.
Yeah, so I guess if we do want to make a seat for Maureen, yeah, I guess Lisa, if you did hear from Jody that she still wants to be active, I mean, maybe we can take that as some interest that could be reflected at some point.
Mhm.
Or, yeah, I don't know. I just,
Check in.
I would like to make a spot for Maureen because she wants to be on the board.
Did you say, Marshall, did she check in? Did she say she's interested, Jody?
When I, anecdotally, when I talked to her,
Oh,
she said she's still interested.
We haven't heard anything.
But she
like
hasn't
that.
made any effort, but she did say she's still interested and she is saying that she's not getting these emails. So I'm not sure what the problem is.
mhm.
I'm almost thinking that we need to make a motion and vote on both of them and get this done. If we decide to do one or the other, it's just going to prolong the misery.
Um,
Well,
I agree and it came to my head that maybe if we make a vote to remove both of them from the roster, then either one of them can reapply because then we'll have an open seat. If one of them is still interested, then they can reapply.
So I would just.
well, I just joined.
Yeah.
I just joined, so Marshall sent me the bylaws and it says 3 or more meetings, unexcused absences during a calendar year. You guys already know that probably.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That-
No,
that's-
I wasn't aware that our bylaws had that. I knew that the city commission had that. So good. Thanks for that. I appreciate that, Tom.
It says tree board.
Okay, good.
We've got too much going on to not have active participants. I mean, there's a lot to do.
Okay. So
Yeah,
Andy, if you
motion.
want to make the motion, I'll second it.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm-
in the, does it make sense to have it a combined motion or separate to recommend Maureen?
Then make that a separate motion.
Separate, okay, yeah.
All right, I make a motion to vote to remove the 2 members listed per the bylaws of the tree board.
Okay.
I'll second that.
For non-participation.
All right, this is Marshall voting yes.
Andy voting yes.
I'm voting yes.
Lisa voting yes.
Laurel, yes.
All right, so that passes. So I think what I have to do now is just email them and probably copy the city and just let them know that we have voted to
Okay.
remove them from the board.
Then I will make a motion to approve Maureen Lighthizer to the board.
Yeah, great. I second that. So this is Marshall voting yes.
Tom voting yes.
Lisa voting yes.
Andy voting yes.
Okay.
All right, cool. So I will send an email to Faith letting her know that we are recommending Maureen for the tree board. So cool. All right, those are our items of business. So we have public comment. Pat, do you want to say something after?
Yes.
And during our hour of blathering about plans and
Ah.
bylaws and everything else, talk about actual.
Well, first of all, I'd just like to say thank you for all you guys work. I know being on committees is sometimes can be tiring, and but thank you. But I have a concern about the emerald ash borer and all the trees that are being cut down. You know, I've seen, I looked at some of your meeting agendas the last couple of months, and it seemed like, you know, some of this was still in a draft stage, the whole planning and what to do about it. And I saw the newspaper article that said, you know, a lot of the cutting was going to start in the spring, but then due to the nice weather, you know, it's starting now. And so it just kind of seems accelerated. And I'm just wondering who's, you know, like deciding what trees are unhealthy and need to go. You know, they say there's going to be about 40 or 50, and I've already seen like 8, you know, just on M Street alone on, you know, 1 block section. So, and now they're down on my street, which is I Street. And so I'm just kind of, I guess, wanted an update on that, or wondering, you know, kind of what's going on. And I just have a concern about it.
Yeah,
Marshall, I might be able to help with that. Pat, I'm a certified arborist and municipal arborist. And to directly answer your question, Eric Schneider, in consultation with, I think the commission is having some input, but Eric Schneider is also a certified arborist. And I think he's making the decisions. And I think he's informing Shannon Holmes, the public works director, before the cutting's done. And basically, there's a few things going on here. The emerald ash borer is kind of the elephant in the room, but there's 2 other things. One is that the ash trees are aging, and there was a lot of improper pruning done. And I know across from my house on 9th Street, we had one just break in half. There's problems with these older ash trees. So that's being looked at. And the other thing is the species diversity. If you get online and look at the city inventory, I think it's 45% or some obscenely high number of all the boulevard trees are green ashes. And we need to get that cranked around somehow so that we don't lose all the trees. If you can remember back when the Midwest lost all the American elms within a few years to Dutch elm disease, that's the idea of taking these out several dozen at a time to try and get planting sites so we can get the money to start putting in new trees. So I'm disappointed that this is kind of a piecemeal thing. It's a safety thing to get the trees down, but then often the most expensive part is getting the stump out so that hole is available for a new tree. So there's a lot to this, and that's kind of a roundabout version, but it's those 3 things in concert: the aging ash forest in the component of the boulevard trees that are in poor condition, combined with the lack of species diversity, combined with the issue of the emerald ash borer and not wanting to have the cost of all the trees taken out at once. So it's not a great answer, but it's an accurate one.
Yeah, I'm glad you raised the concern, though. I mean, I think this is going to become a lot more of an
legit
issue for us. Like, in principle, this is a good thing, I think, because you know, at some point here, the trees are either going to have to be treated with pesticide, which costs a lot of money to save them, or they're going to have to be removed. And it's, you know, it makes sense to take out ones now that would probably not be saved because they're, you know, too close to a stop sign or they have some other defect. But the fact is, you know, it's an emotional thing for people when a tree is cut down. And I think it's going to be a challenge for this board as we go ahead with the Emerald Ash Borer plant especially, and there are more grants like this to replace ash trees. Just trying to communicate with people and figure out a way to really seriously consider this concern and kind of have transparency in the process of how these trees are being selected to be cut down or slated for being treated by the city. So
Yeah, it was just concerning, I mean, the article in the paper said they're working on, mitigation and it just seemed, it was just like you say, a quick thing. We've got the time now, let's do it. And I mean, just going down M Street, it was like, there didn't seem to be any discretionary what goes and what doesn't. And I don't know, I'm not an arborist. I don't know this stuff, but like I say, I just was concerned and just kind of wondering, but it just seems our city folks really like to cut down trees. But
Thank you for coming to us, though. Thank you very much, because a lot of people would just get on Facebook or something and away you go. And
Right.
so we really appreciate it.
no,
And, this is going to be very gut wrenching for the city. We're trying to get out ahead of it, and that's where the tree district comes in. We could do a lot more pre-planning if we had a budget of $75,000 a year and we knew it was going to be there every year. And
Sure.
as it is, we chase grants.
yeah.
I
Yeah, I
think-
mean, things like that you guys try to do, it seems that money always, comes last. You get kind of the leftovers. So I mean, again, I appreciate everything you guys do and the committees you're on. I know you're probably all on a lot of committees, so thank you, to that.
yeah, thanks,
Okay.
Pat.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Pat.
I think
I
it's a
saw
very good
Lisa
point.
begging for like 5 or 10 more minutes from somebody, so we should probably wrap up. I had a couple things for board comment here just to get you guys in the loop. So one is that I drafted a little thing about like a donation process for the city to have on the website. And I just wanted to do that as a way of like getting a foot in the door to proposing, a lot more updates to the city website about trees. I think that we could really do a lot. And I'd like to move pretty fast with this over the winter so that we could have good information about boulevard trees and like, updating the boulevard list and just getting some good information for people about how they can plant trees. And then shoot for doing like an editorial in the paper in April or something like, there's been a pandemic. This is the state of our trees in the city. It's a great time to plant a tree. If you have a spot in your boulevard, this is how you do it, and try and make it really like straightforward for people. So I'll be working on that stuff. And if anybody wants to be involved with that, you can just send me an email and let me know. And I can, I think it makes sense before the next meeting to just kind of bite off some pieces and start working on that.
That's a great idea. Thanks, Marshall.
Thank you.
And then the other little thing is
We could,
I've been in a little bit of
we
communication
could
about,
call it planting a pandemic tree. or
yeah,
something.
hope for the future.
Yes.
Plant a tree. So the other little thing is that I've been in some communication about Livingston potentially hosting a conservation corps crew of like at least 8 people this summer from June through mid-July. And Sarah Stans and Rachel on the Parks and Trails Committee are 2 of the main people that are heading this up. Like I think they'll end up doing a lot of work for Farm to School. But I think Rachel let me know about this and just wondered if there was tree stuff. And so that it's kind of a chicken or egg thing of the like, can we give them stuff to work on? How does that work with Public Works and coordinating all that? Basically, I emailed Shannon and just said, hey, we're kind of interested in this, I think. And Rachel has been talking directly with Shannon about this whole thing. So it sounds like Shannon is interested in this generally if it goes through. But one of the main things I proposed as a possible project would be doing like a really basic update of the inventory. Not any sort of risk stuff, just like walking around with the GPS unit and marking removed trees or newly planted trees and doing like a basic species ID and diameter. I think it's doable with volunteers. And so I don't know, it's nothing really even close to set in stone, but I just wanted to let you know that I had been talking about that.
Thanks, Marshall. That's a great idea.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that'll kind of all come down to whether the volunteers are allocated for other things and then how enthusiastic Shannon is for it. But it's something we can advocate for potentially when the time comes.
You know, and I'm sorry, but again, I just want to say, like, almost during this meeting down on I Street, just indiscriminately, they cut down 5 of those trees. I mean, and it just seems like there's 2 guys looking up there saying, okay, let's do it. I mean, so that my big concern is who's deciding what should be cut down, and is it really being related to the cutters?
Pat, call Eric Schneider at Parks and Rec, and
Okay.
he's a good guy and he'll be happy to talk to you. He's the city's arborist and he can explain the process they use.
Okay, thank you.
All right, you
And
bet.
thanks again, you guys.
Yep.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you. So cool. That's all I got for board comment. Does anybody have comments on any other comments or comments on those couple things?
All I would say, Marshall, is that with these groups coming in, if we can kind of figure out who was willing to help water, that's the big thing, getting us through August. And
Oh, yeah.
so, you know, volunteers, I know Mike Gomez did a lot of watering. He did a lot of stuff on his own time, and we're going to really miss him.
Yeah.
He was a great worker. So we've got to figure out how we're going to pick up that slack. And then,
Yeah.
of course, there's all the Eric's slack in the coming year, too. He says he's pulling the plug in March. If he does, it's going to be a long March until the next rainy fall.
Yeah. I've mentioned to Eric that, so I've got Mike's watering tank. I might try and do some watering of the ash tree replacement little trees over the summer. But yeah, I think that should be near the top of our list of like how we can get some resources to get new trees watered. With this volunteer groups, it's a little tough because of the time period during the summer. It's like they're going to be leaving during the kind of when it's the most important time to be watering. But maybe they could also do like some mulching, a little refresh of the mulching, just stuff that the grounds crew doesn't really get to.
Mulching, that'd be another good one. Yeah.
Yeah, Tom, do you want to share some of your ideas? I realize it's 1:15, so
Yeah, excuse
people
me,
feel
I gotta
free to drop
go.
off.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Laurel.
Watch for the
Thanks,
minutes.
Laura.
Thanks, Laurel.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye.
I don't know if we're going to have a special meeting on the draft management plan or just wait till the next meeting. I think I should just clean these up and send them to you. But if I could get everybody's email, then I could send it to everybody at once. And then in the meantime, I'd like to help out with the, providing some more information or doing something for the city's website, because I really couldn't find much, presence for the tree board on the city's website. The city's website's not that good anyway, but so I'd like to help with you in whatever capacity. And let me just clean these up, because I've got, let's see. Right now, a while ago, years ago, I still know him, Bob Gersak. I don't know who's in charge of the new bank that's being built, but they have a smaller footprint. The building has a smaller footprint. They got a bigger parking lot. And I remember when the credit union redid its, the drive-through, and Rafferty helped them with some urban landscaping. It was really nice. So I was just like, maybe somebody should contact that person and incorporate some trees in their new design. They probably already will, but it's trees are usually secondary or tertiary, or little place for their employees, some nice trees downtown. And I remember when I was planting some trees on my boulevard, there was a list, I couldn't find it, list of preferable trees for the boulevard.
Yeah.
And so, I think that, in my previous job, I was always fighting with our web administrator to get my stuff on the homepage so people can find it. And that would be the same thing here to, kind of push to have some kind of link, because the web page I was looking on for the city, there's no link. It was way buried down there to find out about trees. And boy, I share that woman's concern. If somebody was out in front of my house with a chainsaw, I mean, actually, I start to get, a little twitchy every time I hear a chainsaw, because I know there's somebody out there with taking down trees. So the one Pat that was on there is like, boy, it should be communicated a little bit better. And I'm really sad for those. My heart aches when a full-size tree is taken down.
That's one of the reasons, Tom, that I started this tree management plan. When Eric retires, all bets are off on what the process will be for picking trees. And currently, I know that homeowners are contacted because so many people don't want them down. I think that if it looks a little random to Pat, I think it's because they'll have like a big basket of trees they want to take down, and they kind of beat on doors looking for who wants it down, who is frightened by that tree. But I think there needs to be more transparency. I think that should be on the website. How is that? How does that process work? And we tried to give in the tree management plan, I tried to give a lot of latitude to the city to do the right thing. And we'll see how this plays out. But that's how it's written, is the public works director has a lot of latitude, and they can either contract the assessments or they can hire an arborist in-house, but it's written in there they must do professional assessments of these trees before they do removals. We'll see what gets adopted. And, I'm kind of afraid they're going to say, we have an urban forest plan, we don't want this. And I'm holding my breath for the next 6 weeks, because that's time will tell.
Anyway, I've got a whole bunch of things that I could, but one of them is better web presence, social media presence or something, just to get some more information out there. And, I had the tree removal on my list because I read the article just like everybody else. I was like, wow. So I don't know, I need to find out. I need to get up to speed to see if as a city, they've already decided to give up on the emerald ash borer and just let it come in and do its thing, or whether there's going to be any money devoted to treatment. They talk about pesticides, and then you sent me I think it's in the emerald ash borer plan, draft plan. There's a link to kind of a nationwide website. So I've been going through that, and
yeah, great.
Boy, it doesn't look like there's any good options to treating it. It looks like it's pretty devastating.
One of the benefits of taking out the decadent old elm trees that need to come out because of structural issues is that it's less hosts for the ash borer when they get here. Right. So if they can be judicious about the spacing of the trees removed, that's another reason we're trying to get the plan done, so that they have the tools.
I don't know, maybe you or Marshall should call Eric and ask him, tell him we had a concerned citizen come onto the Zoom meeting, and are the residents being notified? Because it looks like maybe they're starting at the east end of town, and man, they're just, like I said, I'd be devastated. I mean, I was devastated. I should have let
people know too that Shannon, the ash borer plan's been on Shannon's plate for about a month now, so we're waiting for his feedback.
Well, looks like it's time to go. So I'll send you that stuff.
So Tom, yeah, I'll get in touch with you and let you know what I'm thinking with the website stuff, and you can kind of pick where you want to jump in. I wanted to ask you, I know you did desktop publishing. Do you have like graphic design capabilities or?
I do. I don't have the programs anymore. You can't really buy them. All the Adobe programs, the Adobe Suite, the Creative
Yeah,
Suite, you
just
have to
the
kind of
cloud.
rent them online for whatever it is. But
Yeah,
now, I've working at the school for the last 17 years. I didn't even own a computer since everything was provided. So now
Yeah.
I have a computer. Now I need to get programs,
yeah,
but I do have the capabilities. And I'm just an old school print graphic designer. I really don't do much in web design.
yeah. Well, I think that could be a huge asset if you have any interest in getting the Adobe stuff on your computer. Just with like
I do.
you could look around at some examples, or I can send you some of the like the Boulevard tree guides that
Mhm.
they often have a kind of a nice visual layout that even has like a photo of the trees. And I think we could do something like that, so it's not just a Word document.
Yeah, it needs illustrations. Otherwise, people they don't even browse through it.
Could
Yeah,
you get us the
Yeah, great.
cost? Could you get us the cost of the monthly rental, the Adobe Suite? We might be able to find a benefactor or somebody. Maybe this is something I think we ought to just put as a need. We should, on our web page, we should just have tree board needs. Because there's people out there that say, yeah, we'll front that rent of that for, I don't know. I just think that we need to do the ask, figure out the cost and ask.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it depends on which programs you want. I only need a couple: Photoshop, InDesign, the two staples. Well, Illustrator. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that'd be
so
awesome. I'm so happy that you could do that. All right, well, cool. We're approaching 1:30 here, so we can
okay.
Need a
sign
motion
off.
to adjourn?
So thanks so much, everybody. And I guess we'll play it by ear as far as a special meeting. I guess I'm not sure what would trigger that. I'm realizing I don't have a great idea. Maybe what Mel says would influence. I could put in there something like, how much, Mel, do you have an idea of like how much more discussion we should have, or how urgent this is, or something like that? What do you think? Anybody?
That's a good idea. Otherwise, I mean, it can wait till the next meeting, but if we should be moving the plan forward, and these things always take time. So if we need a special meeting to keep it moving forward, we can do that. Find out from Mel what he thinks.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree.
Okay.
And
All right.
find out if we can get input from Eric as soon as possible.
Yeah. Okay. That's
Okay.
another thing. Yep.
Right. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks,
Okay.
everybody.
Yep.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.